Welcome to AI Chain Reaction, the podcast where we unpack the incredible world of artificial intelligence and automation. Each week, we're diving deep into the tech that's reshaping our lives, our businesses, and our future. From groundbreaking innovations and the latest industry news to practical strategies on how you can leverage AI automation for growth. We're covering it all. We'll be joined by leading experts, innovators, and thought leaders who are at the forefront of this digital revolution. Are you ready to explore how one small change can set off a massive chain reaction of progress? Then you're in the right place. Let's get started.
Okay, cool.
Hello and welcome to the show. I'm Nick, and today we're diving into a fascinating topic, large language models and generative AI, and what they mean for the supply chain world. I'm joined by my co-host, Devon Winters. How are you doing today, Devon?
Hey, Nick, I'm doing really great. So first, really excited to talk about this. I love this idea of something Tech Bytes. So we're going to start infusing some AI tech into our podcast here. So not so much that we're gonna learn AI tech on these calls, but enough that we can all speak to it on our projects. We want to be able to talk with consultants and business advisors and people that are important to our projects. So we need to learn a little bit about the technology and what's going on, and then we'll work with the pros on it. We'll let the pros handle the back end. So I'm really excited to talk about this again. And in particular, in this one, large language models, it's a bit of a buzzword today, so I'm really keen on breaking it down. I've been hearing about terms like ChatGPT for generative AI all over the place. Nick, can you start by explaining what is a large language model, an LLM?
Absolutely. So large language models, or LLMs for short, are a type of AI system trained on massive amounts of text data. Think of essentially reading a huge chunk of the internet. Because they've read so much text, they can generate human-like language. In other words, if you ask an LLM a question or give it a prompt, it can produce a pretty coherent answer or piece of text based on patterns it learned from all of that training data. This falls under the category of generative AI, meaning the AI can create new content, like writing sentences, code, even poetry, rather than just analyzing and spitting back existing data.
Got it. So an LLM is like an AI that has read the entire internet, and it's learned how to talk from it to teach what it understands about the internet.
Exactly. In a manner of speaking, yes. Models like OpenAI's ChatGPT 4, Google's Gemini are LLMs. They've processed billions of words when you interact with them. Say, through a chatbot, they generate responses by predicting what should come next based on all of those patterns they've seen in language. That's why they often sound so fluent and knowledgeable.
Got it. So the knowledge. So I'm guessing they're not actually alive. They're not actually intelligent the way humans are. They don't truly understand text like we would understand text. They just know the patterns. Does that sound right?
That's exactly right. They're pattern machines in a sense. They don't have consciousness or true understanding. They mimic understanding by using statistical patterns learned from data. For most uses, that's fine. You ask a question, you get a relevant answer. But it's important to remember they're not infallible or omniscient.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Now, I know you mentioned generative AI. Could you clarify that a bit more?
Definitely. Generative AI refers to AI systems that can generate new content. That content could be text, images, music, code, you name it. In the case of LLMs, the content is text, sometimes code. This is different from, say, a traditional program or even some older AI that might only classify data or retrieve information. A generative model creates something that wasn't literally in its database before. It's using what it learned to produce a fresh output. So for instance, if you ask a generative AI to write a summary of a report, it's not copying a summary from somewhere. It's creating a new summary for you on the fly using its understanding of language and the details you provide.
That's pretty wild. When you think about it, it's like having a little machine that can write or talk about anything. But how would you relate this to something more familiar? Any analogy you can think of to make it a little more clear for us?
Yeah, of course. One analogy I love is think of an LLM as a very well-read intern. Imagine you hire an intern who somehow has read millions of books, articles, and websites. That intern has a ton of general knowledge and can draft emails, write reports, or answer questions because they've read something about it before. They can produce content quickly and fluently. However, this is just like a new intern, the LLM doesn't know your specific business or context until you teach it. Your super well-read intern might not know the details of your company's supply chain or the special terminology your team uses. And if the intern doesn't know something and is put on the spot, they might try to guess or make something up to fill in that gap. LLMs do the same thing at times, and in the AI world, we actually call this tendency to make stuff up hallucination. An LLM might give an answer that sounds confident and plausible, but could be totally wrong if it doesn't have the correct info.
That's a great analogy. I can totally picture it too. I've worked with a lot of interns. Basically, super smart, well-read intern who sometimes bluffs to, fill something in when they're unsure. It's really good to know. We definitely don't want our AI intern bluffing about critical business information. So I assume there's some kind of proper guidance we give the LLM.
Exactly. If you guide the LLM with the right context and data, like giving that intern a briefing document or access to the company knowledge base, it will perform much better and give correct answers. The more you integrate it with your information, the more reliable it becomes for your specific needs. And you always want to double check important outputs, especially early on, just like you would review an intern's work.
It's really interesting. So now let's pivot to why we're talking about this in the first place. The relevance to supply chain, distribution companies, business in general, and why a CEO, CFO, or other executive should care about LLMs. How can these AI interfaces actually help make a difference in supply chain management, in distribution, in a general corporate setting?
Great question. LLMs can boost productivity and efficiency in several areas that involve language, communication, and decision-making support. Here are a few key use cases relevant to supply chain and business operations. Automated customer service. Think of those routine questions customers or partners ask, like where is my order, or when will this item be back in stock? An LLM-powered chatbot can handle many of these An LLM chatbot can handle many of these inquiries in a very conversational, friendly way. It can pull up the tracking information or inventory data from your systems and respond just like a human customer service rep would, 24/7. LLM-powered chatbot can handle many of these inquiries in a very conversational, friendly way. It can pull up the tracking information or inventory data from your systems and respond just like a human customer service rep would, 24/7. For example, a customer could type into a chat, "Hi, can you help me track my shipment? Here's the tracking number," etc., all in a professional, reassuring tone.
Oh, pretty cool. That's a big deal. The customers get instant answers, and your human team doesn't have to spend all day on those repetitive questions.
Definitely. It frees up human staff to focus on trickier issues or exceptions that the AI can't handle. And as the AI gets more data, like more shipment info or product info, it can even handle a wider range of queries. In an e-commerce setting, such an AI chatbot might even go beyond status questions. It could handle product availability questions or make personalized recommendations. I read about one use case where if a customer asks, "Do you have this shoe in size 9?" The LLM chatbot not only checks stock, but might add, "We do, and we also have a new arrival in a similar style you might like." It's using that vast knowledge and a bit of personalization to enhance the customer experience.
That's really impressive. It's not just about tracking orders, but potentially upselling or providing a personalized touch, just like a sales associate would.
Right, all through an AI that feels like a chat conversation. Now, in this next use case, which we will go over about document summaries, supply chains and corporate operations run on document contracts, compliance documents, supplier agreements, lengthy reports, you name it. These can be dozens or hundreds of pages and are time consuming to read. An LLM can act like your personal summarizer. It can read a long contract and then give you a concise summary of the key points, the main terms, deadlines, any risk or red flags. So imagine being a CEO or CFO, and instead of reading 50-page contracts word for word, You ask the AI, hey, give me the highlights of the supplier agreement. In seconds, it might say, sure, that contract runs for 2 years with pricing of X per unit, a 60-day termination notice clause, and penalties outlined for late deliveries. No exclusivity clause. The key obligations on our side are ABC, and so on.
That sounds awesome. I mean, it's going to save hundreds of hours of time reading and digesting all that information. And honestly, when you talk about 50-page contracts, and I've seen even some that are bigger than that, yeah, you read it, but it's so easy to miss something. That's just it's a lot for one person to take in at the time. So you spend a lot of time rereading it or having other people in your department reading it too. So now you're talking about multiple people reading it and going through it, and it can take days, if not weeks, to get to a final copy. So this is really exciting. This can just, I imagine, can save a ton of time.
It really can, and it's not just contracts. Think about compliance reports or lengthy market research or internal audit documents. The AI can pull out the key insights or even answer your follow-up questions like, what was the overall trend last quarter mentioned in this report? This way, executives can grasp the important information quickly and make decisions or sign off on documents faster. With confidence, they haven't missed something buried in the fine print.
No, I love it. Just thinking about our other executives, somebody like a CFO that could use that to quickly prep for meetings by skimming the summaries instead of poring over every hour and every line in the report. But let's talk about the third example you mentioned too. You mentioned something about decision support.
Yes, the third key area is decision support. So we'll get into virtual assistant for research and planning. An LLM can serve as a kind of on-demand research assistant. Need to prepare for a strategy session? You can ask an LLM to compile information for you. For example, summarize our sales trends over the past year and current inventory levels, or give me the main points from our last 3 monthly supply chain reports. If the LLM is connected to your internal data, like through a secure system that feeds into the info, it can generate a quick narrative answer. It might say, sure, over the past year, sales grew 5% overall, with the biggest increase in Q2. Inventory levels are currently 10% above average, mainly due to excess stock in warehouse X. Product line Y is moving slower than expected, contributing to the higher inventory. The last 3 reports highlighted transportation delay as a concern and recommended adjusting safety stock levels. This is complex info, but delivered in a way you can grasp in moments, rather than having to sift through multiple spreadsheets or slides.
Huh. Really like it. It's like having a business analyst or an entire research team available just by asking a question on demand. I can picture it right now. It's 1 a.m. and I need this research done. Who am I going to call? No, I'll just call the AI assistants and we can get it done now. Appreciate it.
Exactly right. The LLM can pull together data and present it in plain English or whatever language you prefer, which helps in quick decision making. Now, to set realistic expectations, to do this well, it often requires integrating the AI with your data systems and maybe some customization, because out of the box, the AI doesn't know your company's data. But companies are already building these kinds of AI assistants internally. Think of it as a smart dashboard you can talk to. Instead of clicking around reports, you just ask, hey, what's going on with our inventory this week? And it tells you the story.
Sounds almost too good to be true. There have to be caveats or challenges here. What should a CEO or CFO or other executive do when you think about how should they be careful when using LLMs?
Great point. There are a few important considerations to keep in mind. Let's start off with accuracy and hallucinations. As we discussed, LLMs might sometimes give incorrect information confidently. That's the hallucination problem. You wouldn't want it, for example, summarizing a contract incorrectly or making up a number in a report. Early on, you need to double check its outputs, especially for critical tasks. Over time, you might find it very reliable for certain things, but always good to have a human in the loop for oversight on important decisions. The next point we'll go over is data privacy and security. If you're going to use an LLM with sensitive business data, you need to ensure that the data is handled securely. Many LLM services, like the ones from OpenAI, Microsoft, Google, etc., offer enterprise options where your data isn't used to train the AI further and remains private. In some cases, companies opt for on-premise solutions or open source LLMs that they can run internally, so the data never leaves their own servers. A CFO will definitely want to loop in the IT and security teams to set this up right. For instance, if you use a cloud-based LLM via an API, you'd want assurances that, say, your supply chain contract text you're summarizing isn't going to end up being seen by the AI provider or used in a way beyond answering your query. And lastly, we'll go over cost and integration. There's also a cost factor. Using advanced LLMs can incur usage fees, especially for large volumes of queries or for running them on your own hardware. And integrating them with your existing systems, like connecting to your databases or software, might require some development work. So it's wise to start with a pilot project and see the ROI.
Yeah, that's really good. And I heard you mention APIs too. We'll have to come back and talk about APIs in another episode, but these are really good points in the LLM. So basically, don't blindly trust it at first. Keep the sensitive info safe. We start small, like a pilot, and we test the waters. It sounds like really good advice for any new technology, honestly, not just AI.
Exactly. LLMs are powerful, but they're not magic wands. They work best with a bit of training and oversight. Think of them as collaborative tools. They do a lot of heavy lifting with language and data, and you steer them in the right direction and verify the important stuff.
This has already been a really insightful discussion. Let's wrap up with just some key takeaways and then a quick call to action for our listeners.
So, for key takeaways from today's conversation, large language models, LLMs, are AI systems trained on massive amounts of text, enabling them to generate human like language. They've essentially read a huge swath of the internet, so they can draft text and answer questions in a very natural way. LLMs are also a form of generative AI, which means they create new content. Unlike traditional tools that might just retrieve info, these models can produce original sentences, summaries, or even code based on what they've learned. Also, think of an LLM as a super well read intern. It's knowledgeable and can assist with drafting emails, summarizing documents, and answering questions. But like an intern, it doesn't know the specifics of your business until you provide that context. And it might improvise answers if it's unsure, which is that hallucination concept we discussed. Along with in supply chain and business operations, LLMs can drive efficiency in several ways, including handling routine customer service queries like tracking orders and FAQs through chatbots, which frees up your team, providing document summaries or long contracts or reports so you can get the gist without the grind. And lastly, acting as a decision support assistant, compiling and explaining data insights to help in planning and strategy. And lastly, successful use of LLMs requires the right setup and oversight. You need to feed them accurate data, ensure privacy and security of your information, and double check their outputs initially. When used wisely, they become powerful aids rather than liabilities.
Really nicely summed up. So I'd like to add this technology is really evolving fast. What LLMs can do today is impressive for sure. And in 6 months from now and beyond, they're likely going to have even way more capabilities. So staying updated on these is really important. So for our call to action, if you're a CEO, CFO, or another type of business leader listening to this, what can you do to get started with LLMs, Nick?
Yeah, definitely. My advice would be start small and learn by doing. Identify one or two use cases in your organization where a language AI could help. Maybe it's implementing a pilot chatbot on your customer service page or using an LLM internally to help your team summarize weekly reports. Try it out with a limited scope, monitor the results, and get feedback from your team and customers. Also, educate your team. Maybe host a workshop or demo so people can understand what this AI can and can't do. The more hands-on experience you get, the more ideas you'll have on where it can drive value. And remember those guardrails. Keep an eye on the outputs and protect your sensitive data.
Yeah, okay. And if you're not the hands-on type, then probably at least start a conversation with your IT or your innovation team or your consulting partners about this. Have them look into the tools like OpenAI's GPT-4, Microsoft Azure, OpenAI service, other platforms as well, and see what might really fit your company's needs. This way, you don't get left behind is the main message. These tools can offer a huge competitive edge in efficiency and insight if they're used well.
Well said. That's all for today's deep dive into large language models and generative AI. We hope this sheds some light on not just what the technology is, but how it can be practically applied in the business and supply chain context.
For sure. I found it super useful. Yeah, thanks, Nick, for guiding us through this on LLMs. Really helpful. Now, I'd like to take a moment and thank our listeners as well for tuning in, and hope they enjoyed the episode. So I'll pass it back to you, Nick, to wrap up.
Of course, thank you very much for joining me today, and thank you everyone for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe and maybe share this with colleagues who are curious about AI in business. We'll be continuing this series, so stay tuned for our next episode. Until then, I'm Nick with co-host Devon Winters, saying thanks for listening and see you next time.
And that brings us to the end of another episode of AI Chain Reaction. Thank you so much for tuning in and exploring the incredible world of AI and automation with us. We hope today's discussion sparked some new ideas and gave you valuable insights into how these technologies are shaping our future. Don't let the conversation stop here. What was your biggest takeaway from this episode? Let us know in the comments below. We love hearing from you. If you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. For more resources and to learn how AI automation can transform your business, visit us at wintersaisolutions.com. Thanks again for being part of our community. Until next time, keep innovating and stay curious.